Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do a vaginal cytology. We have a doc here that's in heat, and I'm just going to take one of my, what are these things called? Cotton swab? Yeah, cotton swab. I'm going to wet it down with saline, and then I'm going to go ahead and I will insert it into her, what? It's just not working.
You need to walk through the word.
Oh, okay, hold on. To the vulva. To the vaginal canal, I guess. Okay, so Jess, if you want to go ahead and hold that up. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and what I'm going to do is kind of pull down on her vulva too to kind of straighten the canal out. And I'm just going to insert it and there we go. So you kind of got to go up and then over a little bit. Alright, good girl, that's okay. Alright, so we got our sample. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to roll this out on my slide, not overlapping any of these. I just make 3 strips about 1 inch long, and then you don't want to roll back on them and you don't want to roll over them. So I have those. I'm going to go ahead and let it air dry, and then I will go ahead and stain it. Alright, so we just had our vaginal smear air drying, and it is now dry. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in our stain. Once again, we have a 3-step stain, so I'm going to go ahead and use the first one. We just have the quick stain. I like to do this for about 30 seconds, just to make sure that all of it does get stained appropriately. Shake out the excess and dip it into the next. And my last stain. Alright, shake that off, put the lids back on here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to gently rinse this off. I'm just going to let it set up here to air dry, and then once it gets done drying, we'll go ahead and take a look at it underneath the microscope. So our vaginal smear is now air dried, so I'm going to go ahead and place it underneath the microscope, and we'll go ahead and evaluate what kind of cells are on here so we can try to see what stage she is in. Alright, so I'm going to start off on 10. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and go up to 40. Alright, that's oil, and then I go on to 100. Alright, so now I'm going to kind of go over this and see if I see cornified or non-cornified squamous cells. I'm going to kind of take into account if I see any neutrophils. All of that will kind of suggest what stage of estrus she is in. Okay, so I'm just finishing up our the vaginal cytology smear. Let me go ahead and take this off. Clean this off. Whenever I analyze my smears, I usually start on the left corner towards me, and then I usually head away from me. It just kind of depends. Ear cytologies I do a little bit different than these cytologies, so depending on what kind of cytology smear I do depends on how I look at it. But I just make certain to look at them certain kinds, the same method each time, so I don't get confused. So I kind of look at everything. Alright, so now that my microscope's all cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and go over the different types of cells that you would find with different stages. So you have anestrus, you have proestrus, estrus, and diestrus. Did I just go over all of it? I think so. So we're going to kind of go over some of the different cells that you can see. And you're going to have to come a little bit closer and zoom in. Alright, so here we have some of the different cells that you can see. Here's anestrus. There's not really any neutrophils. You have the non-cornified squamous cells. You can see these nice round edges. And then you're getting into proestrus here. You have some more of the neutrophils. You know, your cells aren't this nice smooth round. They're kind of getting a little bit more edgy over here. But they're not quite, you know, square blocks or anything. There's still some roundness to them. Over here in estrus, you'll have your cornified cells, and they're, you know, very sharp, jagged edges. And there's not really any neutrophils in here. And then over here you have your diestrus, where you'll kind of see an increase in the neutrophils. Your squamous cells are kind of getting back to where they're starting to turn a little bit more round. They're not quite anywhere near as jaggy. You know, they're eventually going to look more like this later on down the road. In diestrus, you'll kind of notice at the beginning there's going to be a lot more neutrophils. Further on into it, you're going to notice a decrease in the neutrophils. But those are kind of an example of the cells that you would see in a vaginal cytology whenever a dog is in heat or not in heat, to kind of analyze what stage that they might be in.